I'm your host, John Brissett. Thank you for being a subscriber. If you want to support my work, you can donate, buy me a coffee / We've Read. If you want to subscribe to my work, search We've Read the Documents on Odyssey, Patreon, Substack, Rumble, and YouTube. Substack gives you the greatest access to my content. You get my written work as well as my RSS feed to be able to listen to my live streams in audio format. My fellow brother in Christ and I, Jeremy Stone, have a Christian podcast, By Their Fruits. Listen to wherever you listen to your podcasts, normally at Spotify, Apple. And I've been a naturopathic author and health coach for greater than 10 years. Visit fixyourgut.com, 250 blogs to help you to better health, as well as I offer gut health coaching. I've coached tens of thousands of people at this point over the many years to better health, Lord willing. And you can purchase my books, Fix Your Gut and Fix Your Mitochondria. God bless each and every one of you. So, over the past few months, over the past few years, I've talked about the coming Retribution squads, Rex 2025, wars and rumors of wars that have been going on. I've been discussing this for months and years, that this was coming, and it's happening, and it's been happening, and it's going to continue to happen. And so, we're here. Are we the frog in the pot and the water slowly being turned up and the lids being put over the pot and, eventually it's just going to rapid boil, right? Is that America? Is that what's going on? Because it appears to me that's what's going on. And most people aren't realizing it. They're struggling because the economy's down and times are tough. They're not really paying attention to what's happening. The moves that Trump is doing, and because they haven't reached their full effect yet. And a lot of people have cognitive dissonance where they say, well, that can't happen here in America. We can't have a dictator here in America. We can't have a king here in America. They don't think it's happening. They think that, all these things that we've discussed, whether the Retribution squads, Rex 2025, wars and rumors of wars, all these things, they come and they go, nothing ever happens, and all this stuff's just going to be walked back eventually and go to normal for months and weeks and years on end, okay? I don't think so. We're going to talk about that. So let's go over some clips of Trump, read some things of what's going on of the further escalation of the militarization of Washington, D.C., and eventually the militarization of major cities across the United States of America in preparation for Rex 2025, FEMA camps, and martial law.
Is the plan to get it before the September 30 spending deadline on the Hill?
Well, I don't know if there is a deadline, because if I declare a national emergency, which this was, that ends the deadline. So, I keep seeing about a 30-day deadline, of which we have 22 days left or something. But if I think we're in great shape here, that's one thing. But if I don't, I'm going to just say it's a national emergency. And if I have a national emergency, I can keep the troops there as long as I want.
So Trump wearing a hat, boasting that he's right about everything, and saying, well, just like when he said, with Zelensky in jest, right, of how, we could get into a major war and not have an election, right? Now he's saying, well, I could just declare a national emergency and I could just declare martial law eventually, and the troops would have to remain on the streets, right? Is anybody listening? Is anybody out there? I'm the crazy one for saying, hey, these things are coming, and people are like, oh, nothing ever happens until it does. What are you talking about, John? We're not seeing all these things. What are you doing? You're jumping to conclusions. Okay, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out, chat. We're gonna find out. And I'm not saying that I've been right about everything. Lord knows I haven't. But this one is being seen by people that aren't even paying attention. Okay, let's continue.
And tonight, 1,700 National Guard troops are now set to mobilize across 19 states over the coming weeks. They are going to help Homeland Security execute a sweeping federal crime and immigration crackdown that is underway now. The order is effective August through mid-November, Fox News is learning. And a U.S. defense official tells Jackie Heinrich and Liz Frieden the National Guard being mobilized will effectively serve as a support pillar.
Yeah, so as we've been told, the National Guard's going to be mobilized to many states to mainly help with the ICE raids that are going on. in the fashion of them rounding up illegal immigrants, but not doing it from actual criminals that need to be deported to their correct countries, but instead just randomly, haphazardly, with chaos, just going after everyone, no matter who they are, and deporting them, even taking American citizens and detaining them. Deporting illegal immigrants to alligator Alcatraz or to not even their country of origins, putting them in CCOT down there in Venezuela, or bringing them to South Sudan. Again, none of these are their country of origins unless they are Venezuelan or Sudanese. But this is where we're at, and this is continuing. And again, is it happening or is it not happening? I mean, we talked about that as well, too. Is it happening to the degree it's being reported or it's not? I don't know. But I'm telling you is you could go to D.C. right now, and I've had friends and family that travel through there and friends and family that live in Virginia that have told me that, yeah, it's militarized. Is it more militarized under Biden? And we'll get to that as a reminder. Yeah, it is, apparently. So I guess things are happening, right? I guess it is. And it's been happening. It's not that it's happening. It's been happening. It's been building up to where we are now, and we're coming to the crescendo. We're coming to the crescendo. All right. And yeah, you can come against me all you want, say I'm alarmist, say blah, 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 blah. But these things are happening. These things are happening, and you can admit it. They were entering into a dictatorship. They were in a dictatorship. That Trump's a dictator, and he's just completely throwing the Constitution out with the window, or not. So it's up to you. It's really up to you. So here we have Trump talking about removing Democrat D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who, not a fan of Bowser, but let's just oust a democratically elected, constitutional republic elected mayor, right? Mayor of D.C., right? Just oust her. Just I'm gonna be king.
In Washington, D.C., we have the lowest crime numbers they've had in years. Zero, it sounds like it's a horrible thing to say, but I might as well say it. Zero murders in the last week since we've done this. That's the first time in memory that's happened, if you can believe it, how pathetic that is to have to even say it. And I'm tired of listening to these people say how safe it was before we got here. It was unsafe. It was horrible. And Mayor Bowser better get her act straight, or she won't be mayor very long, because we'll take it over with the federal government, run it like it's supposed to be run. The numbers were horrible. It was a crime-infested rat hole, and they do have a lot of rats. We're getting rid of them, too. And we've made a lot of progress. And
so those rats, we got exterminators out there, Trump? Is exterminators in D.C., right? Exterminators killing them rats?
It was extremely unsafe, and now it's extremely safe. We had virtually no crime. The number was down 87%, and I'm trying to figure out where was the 13%, because I don't think it existed. The National Guard has been unbelievable, and they're working with the police, and they have some very good people in there. They have some people that shouldn't be police, actually, but they have some great people there. And the Washington, D.C. is a whole different place. And
there you go. There you go. Trump crime crackdown deploys troops in Washington's safest sites. Hundreds of National Guard soldiers in military fatigues and combat boots mingle with tourists, posed for selfies, and treated themselves to ice cream from food trucks on Thursday along Washington's National Mall, one of the safest parts of America's capital. On occasion, an angry local would have hurled verbal abuse at them, but the soldier simply shrugged and carried on what appeared to be an undemanding assignment. Outside the National Museum of African American History and Culture, 5 members of the West Virginia National Guard were standing on the street corner away from the city's crimes hotspots. It's boring. We're not really doing much, said Sergeant Fox, who declined to give his first name. So again, are things happening? Are things getting in preparation to happen? Right? Because we're getting dual narratives, quadruple narratives, as we always do, right? So again, are things really happening? Now, I think they are. I've been talking about it for a while, okay? But again, I'm also going to come on here and tell you there's a possibility that this is a big nothing burger. Now, I don't think that it is, that's not, if I had to put what I believe it to be, it's the Retribution Squad's Rex 2025, sector, right? But interesting story being published by Reuters. Again, a lot of the progressive left are going to say that, Trump's an authoritarian dictator, which he is. But then again, the troops really aren't doing anything, just like they really didn't do anything in Los Angeles. Okay? So again, I have, if this is being what's reported as well as a counter narrative, I have to mention it. Okay? Fox is among almost 2,000 troops, including 1,200 from 6 Republican-led states, who are being deployed in Washington as part of extraordinary militarization inside the Democratic-led city. Soldiers, some of them who told Reuters they didn't get involved in arrests, are officially in Washington to support a federal crackdown on what President Donald Trump calls a crime epidemic. But the depiction appears to run counter to the fact that crime rates overall have shrunk in recent years. The disconnect, combined with the troop concentration near the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, and the view of the U.S. Capitol, highlights criticism by city's Democratic leaders that his massive deployment is more of a show of power by Trump than a serious effort to fight crime. Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser said this week that she did not think the arrival of troops was about tackling crime, just expressed concern about the presence of an armed militia in the nation's capital. Does she have that problem with Biden in January 6th? By contrast with Central Washington, residents of Ward 8 in city's southeast areas of the highest crime rate said there was not a guardsman in sight, with the ward's murder rate dwarfing that of many other neighborhoods. Many locals said they would welcome the troops on their streets. Again, that's another narrative. There are people, within these crime areas that are begging for the troops to do something. That's a narrative being pushed as well. I haven't seen any. This is where they need to be, said Shauna Turner, 50, a housing case manager on the Ward 8 street. The Joint Task Force of the District of Columbia, which is leading the crime crackdown, so where National Guard troops are deployed, is based on requests from law enforcement agencies. Again, why are they all around the capital area? Is Trump going to declare martial law? Is it for coming riots that speed the necessity for Rex 2025? Abigail Jackson, a White House spokeswoman, said teams of federal law enforcement officials are making arrests in Washington's highest crime areas every night. National Guard is not making arrests at this time. Their role is to protect federal assets, including law enforcement officers, and provide a visible law enforcement presence, she said. The troops are one element of a surge of local and federal law enforcement agents in Washington, including the FBI, who have conducted active arrest operations as Trump announced earlier this month that he's federalizing law enforcement responsibility in Washington, D.C. Deploying troops on American streets is rare and controversial. National Guard have been sent to Washington in recent years to help bolster security at presidential inaugurations during protests, including January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters. And you had the further protection of the Capitol during the Biden administration after that. But the city's declining crime rate, coupled with the limited involvement of the troops in crime fighting, has raised questions about the political motivations behind the current deployment. Randy Manner, a retired National Guard Major General, said he believed the deployment is a step towards Trump sending National Guard troops into other Democrat-led cities. Not in our lifetime, as the president said, I'm going to use uniformed soldiers to reduce crime, Manner told Reuters. There'll be soldiers in other cities in the not-too-distant future. We're turning this into a militarized environment. It's extremely sad. During a visit to a police base on Washington on Thursday, Trump said law enforcement crackdown will go to other places. Earlier this month, Trump suggested he could shift his focus to cities including Chicago and New York. Be sure the presence of the Guard in the heart of Washington was welcomed by some visitors. As troops of the National Guard mingled with tourists from the United States and abroad, a group of guardsmen from Mississippi were walking aside Anu Pokarau, his wife, and 2 daughters aged 8 and 5. The software engineer, 43, who lived in Washington in the 90s, was visiting the city with his family from Boston. He said he supported the deployment. It feels cleaner and safer. Okay. National Guard troops in D.C. will carry service-issue weapons. Trump deployed the National Guard in the city as part of his effort to federalize Washington police operations from political. National Guard troops deployed to Washington have been authorized to carry service-issue weapons, according to defense officials familiar with the matter, who granted anonymity to discuss the deployment. At the direction of Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, JTF D.C. members supporting the mission to lower the crime rate in our nation's capital will soon be on a mission with their service-issued weapons consistent with their mission and training, the Pentagon said in a statement Friday. The interim commanding general of the D.C. National Guard retains the authority to make any necessary force and posture adjustments in coordination with the D.C. Metropolitan Police and federal law enforcement partners. Many of the troops are deployed in high tourist areas like Union Station near the Washington Nationals ballpark and in metro stations. President Donald John Trump has deployed the Guard to the city as part of what he describes as a crackdown on crime in the nation's capital. The crowds are coming back, the spirit is high, and our D.C. National Guard and police are doing a fantastic job. He wrote on Truth Social on Friday. They're out in force and not playing games. So there you go. So here, interestingly enough, with the talk about pizza and Pizzagate, here's Trump serving pizza to the National Guard from Wise Guy Pizza. And then you'll see various TikTok videos of showing up, pushing how safe DC is now since we have troops on the streets. Again, is this some sort of psychological, psychographical operation? Or, you know, I would assume some of these probably are people posting real TikTok videos of having this sentiment. But how much of this truly is an operation, right?
I remember going to the gas station in D.C. even just a month ago, and I would never do this. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. It's quiet, safe out here, man. Safe. I remember a few months ago, my brother had his door open. Somebody carjacked him right here in Northeast, right up the street, actually. Got carjacked. My SUV got taken. Yo, y'all hear the helicopters out here? Oh, yeah, we got the helicopters out here. Like, DC is safe.
Now, maybe that's true. Maybe he's telling the truth. Likely he is in D.C. You and I didn't know geolocation. But again, this is a narrative, right? And if crime does reduce further than how it supposedly reported or has already reduced, and we see more and more videos that people are actually happy that this is happening. And, you know, a lot of these Democrat-run cities, crime is amok. Crime is amok. But crime is amok in a lot of Republican states that are very poor as well, too. Like Mississippi and Louisiana, for example. It's not just a Democrat blue problem. Crime is multiple reasons. You know, obviously sin and social and economical issues, and crime is extraordinarily complex, right? But this narrative is going to continue to get people to sign over what little freedom they had, quote unquote, as the economy continues to get worse and crime continues to increase and the love of many wax cold and it just gets worse and worse. You know, people will be begging for peace and safety here in America, brought to them by King Donald Trump and his military. So now, we'll move on to the Retribution squads. And the Retribution squads have started with Council for National Policy member John Bolton, the ardent Zionist neocon. Now, is Bolton a war criminal, warmonger that deserves to be put on trial? And I believe that he is guilty and to be sentenced, of course. Of course, that's not the discussion here. But what they're going after him for, well, you know, is it because he's been vocal about Trump? Now, again, he's CMP. Is it a controlled, on purpose vocalization of him being against Trump? Is the CMP eating their own? Is this for show? I don't have an answer. I'm going to be one of the only ones to mention that. There's a possibility that they started with John Bolton. There's a possibility that they started with the CMP because this is not going to amount to anything and it's all for show. Maybe. I don't know. Are we going to find out more information of things that are being said that Bolton was selling intelligence to foreign governments? We'll see, right? That's being reported as a possibility of what's going on. It has nothing to do with, you know, the investigation of what he wrote into his book and what was disclosed and whether he broke any disclosure laws, right? And him going after Trump because he's a vocal, ardent, supposedly, allegedly, counter narrative against Donald Trump, right? He's outspoken against Donald Trump, right? Supposedly, allegedly. Now, Joe Bolton is a decades-long CMP CFR member. He was a twofer. And the twofer people tend to be more powerful, okay? So is this a limited hangout like Monica Lewinsky and CMP Ken Starr and going after the Clintons? Like, is this that? I don't know, but I'm putting that forth out there because it is a possibility. It is a possibility that this is just CMP controlled show, all right? And I'm going to be one of the only people to say that, okay? I don't know. Now, is this the beginning of the Retribution squads? Is this the beginning? Now, Ivan Raiklin said that John Bolton wasn't on his deep state list, so this isn't true. Not Retribution, according to Ivan Raiklin. Okay, you go look on his X. I'll try to bring the tweet up during this clip from Ivan Raiklin. But this doesn't fit the criteria of his Retribution. And it's been noted that Flynn has talked about that he is openly working with Tulsi Gabbard, and CMP Flynn is ultimately ultimately working with Pete Hegseth as well too. Flynn, supposedly, allegedly, out of his own mouth, of whether that's true or not, is working directly with the Trump administration and working directly with what is going on with disclosure and retribution and the coming wars, and we'll get to that later, but I'll see if I can find that as well, too. That's directly out of CMP Michael Flynn's mouth. So, again, like, the retribution's starting. I thought it was going to start with some Democrats. Interesting, it started with a CMPer like John Bolton, okay? And is John Bolton guilty of numerous crimes? In my opinion, yes, he should face a jury of his peers. Is he guilty specifically of this stuff? Is this politically motivated where he just speaks out against Trump? I think it's politically motivated. All right? So, you know, it's these things should be discussed, right? So let me see if I can find them tweets. Give me a minute.
President, I have a question about the search of Ambassador Bolton's home. The vice president recently just did an interview saying that it's about classified documents, but that there's also broad concern about him. What are the concerns?
Well, I haven't spoken to Pam in the group yet, but I will be. I saw that just like everybody else. I try and stay out of that stuff. I'm allowed to be, and I'm chief law enforcement officer, believe it or not. You know, I don't like to go around saying that, but I am. That's the position. But I purposely don't want to really get involved in it. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag, actually. And he suffers major Trump derangement syndrome, but so do a lot of people, and they're not being affected by anything we do. I don't know anything about it. I just saw that. I'll find out about it. But if you believe the news, which I do, I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also. Paul Mar-a-Lago. They went through everything they could, including my young son's room and my wife's area. They went through her drawers, as the expression goes. They went through everything you can imagine. And when she came back, she said, she's very neat, you know, she's meticulous. And she looked and she said, whoa, this wasn't the way that she had it. So, you know, so I know the feeling. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah. Sounds like retribution, right? Seems like tit for tat, right? And it's very interesting you mentioned that John Bolton had Trump derangement syndrome. And of course, Trump mentions, well, there's a lot of people with Trump derangement syndrome, but it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going after them, right? A lot of people had Trump derangement syndrome, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going after them specifically. That is what Trump mentioned. It looks like that Raiklin may have deleted that tweet, but he does, as you can see in all these posts and replies here, and I'll still keep looking for it. He's talking about, like, Jamie Raskin is number one on his list for retribution, right? And it was like, well, Jamie Raskin's right up the road. You know, why don't you go after Raskin, right? You know, why don't you go after, he's number one on his list, I guess, right up the road. Why don't you go after Jamie Raskin? You know, Raiklin does appear to be happy that they went after John Bolton eventually. It seems like he has changed his opinion on you know, him not being number one or even on his deep state list, but he seems to be happy that it ends up happening that he is. And it seems like he's deleted the tweet that I'm referencing. You just have to take my word for it. I don't see it unless I'm missing it, but he was kind of like, he's not even, on my list of deep state actors that retribution needs to be brought upon. And I wish I would have saved it. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't save everything. But one interesting thing that I saw here that he ended up retweeting and responding to was Roger Stone. Of course, Roger Stone house had got raided, right? And so Stone was extremely like a peacock on a strut, happy about what happened to Bolton. Let me see if I can find that. So Roger Stone was extremely happy about Bolton. As you can see here, he's been taking all the news shows, Jack Posobiec, InfoWars with Alex Jones. Stone is extremely happy, Stone's a criminal. And, there's a very interesting thing. They had George Conway, who, former, I think, are they getting divorced? Or did they get divorced? Or I don't know if I saw some people talking about it. CMP Kellyanne Conway, George Conway, was there at being interviewed and filming at John Bolton's house, and Donald John Trump Jr. was like, well, why was Conway tipped off there? And then of course Roger Stone was like, well, why wasn't CNN tipped off like they were tipped off for me and my raid of my house? So it's just tit for tat. It's tit for tat. It's interesting. It's very interesting. So, now this is something a lot of people are talking about here. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro has authored 20 JAG officers to prosecute misdemeanors in D.C. JAG equals Judge Advocate General Military Prosecutors. What? Military prosecutors are doing civil law? What in the world is going on here?
And we also found out, Jillian, just recently that U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro has authorized 20 JAG officers, military prosecutors, to prosecute misdemeanors here on the streets of D.C. as part of this surge. So you're seeing a lot of cooperation between the Pentagon with the National Guard, the FBI, which is under the Department of Justice. But that's notable. 20 JAG officials, which are military lawyers, being able to prosecute misdemeanors as part of this operation. Jillian.
Dude, what is going on? What is going on? And no, again, military lawyers can JAG prosecute civilians. No! In most circumstances, no, unless they're given special exceptions. Special authority to do so by the president or Congress. Why? Because JAG are military lawyers. Military tribunals, right? And why are they using JAG lawyers for simple misdemeanors? We're not talking about felonies. We're talking about misdemeanors. They're using JAG officers for civvy misdemeanors. Not even federal crimes. Now, if that doesn't blow the whistle on what in the world is going on, I don't know what will for the crowd that nothing ever happens. Really? Really? We're using military lawyers for misdemeanors. Military lawyers that prosecute the military, not civvies, the military. Military tribunals, military justice. What is going on, chat? What's going on? These 15 big names could be next after FBI raids John Bolton's house and Trump's Retribution campaign. On Friday morning, the FBI reportedly conducted a raid on the residence of John Bolton, a former national security advisor to Donald Trump who became one of his harshest critics. So, they're talking about who might be next. Miles Taylor, former chief of staff at Homeland Security. Christopher Krebs, Trump's former election security director. Letitia James, New York Attorney General, who successfully sued Trump for fraud. Aaron Zelinsky, former prosecutor on Robert Mueller's team. Andrew Weissman, member of Mueller's team. Bill and Hillary Clinton. Very interesting that Ghislaine Maxwell, we got another Epstein show coming up soon. Ghislaine said that good old Bill never went to Epstein Island. Ghislaine Maxwell, James Comey, Robert Mueller III, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, William Pelham Barr, who also said that Trump did nothing with Epstein. Very interesting. Jeff Sessions, Alberto Gonzalez, and Merrick Garland. Among others, there's so many others that could be named for Trump's coming retribution. Adam Schiff, for example. Shifty Schiff. And so for wars and rumors of wars that continue, exclusive Defense Secretary Hegseth christened his conference room in the halls of the Pentagon the War Room. So the War Department, the War Room, not defense, but war. The War Room, right? War Room, War Department, bringing it back from, it used to be called the War Department, then the Department of Defense, now back to the War Department, right? Oh, CMP Alex Jones, what are you shilling? What are you shilling, son?
Now, I don't like any of these wars, not Gulf War, not Gulf II, not Afghanistan, all of it. I've been against all these wars, Ukraine war, all of it. But if you look at U.S. doctrine and wars that we fought before that were right, it's in Latin America. This is our sandbox.
Yeah, I remember Rex 84, right? The CFP's plan to destabilize Latin America. And they did to a degree, a major degree, obviously, with El Salvadorian death squads and Nicaragua and the Contras. And, you know, there's supposed to be a mass destabilization in Latin America, which would lead us to send troops into Latin America and take over those countries. And there'd be dissidents in America to, us invading Latin America. And they'd be put in camps. They put in FEMA camps, right, chat? That's what Rex 84 was. And Oliver North and the Scouts for National Policy and all that. And yeah, chat. And Alex Jones said that was a Democrat communist plot, right? That Ronald Wilson Reagan was our guy, CMP Ronald Wilson Reagan, and CMP George H.W. Bush was our guy. And Oliver North was a true, real American hero, as Tucker says as well, too. Tucker magnifies Hannity's real American hero of Oliver North, right? And look where we're at, chat. Look where we're at, where Alex Jones is like, well, I'm against all these wars, chat, but a Latin American destabilization and invasion, which is what the CMP has been wanting since the 80s, CMP Alex Jones is like, well, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. That's perfectly fine, chat. And yeah, I did see David Icke, clocks right, broken clocks right twice daily. Obviously, no fan of David Icke. Okay, I've called him out numerous times this channel. He's a theosophist. We should pray for him. He's very much likely possessed. Hopefully he becomes, born again and believes that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. We should pray for Icke and his family. Nonetheless, he calls out Alex Jones. And guess who else called Alex Jones? Former InfoWars reporter Gregory Reese, who we should also pray for. If this ain't a CMP narrative that Alex Jones is spitting out of his mouth directly from Ollie North and Eric Prince, then I don't know what is. Eric Prince allegedly is trading mercenaries to go into Haiti. Allegedly. If this does not prove, through all the research that Josh Reeves has done, through all the research Derek in the Midwest has done, through all the research that I've done, that Alex Jones is not a CMP shill, I don't know what will.
And Venezuela is a communist dictatorship with the biggest oil reserves per square foot in the world. Their people are absolute slaves. And I don't like regime change. But they are manipulating our elections. They are flooding us with fentanyl. And if there were surgical strikes...
Trump's talking about invading Mexico. Trump's talking about invading Mexico to stop fentanyl from coming in. So the CMP has wanted this since the 1980s and literally funded death squads to kill Christians and Latin Americans in Latin America. Christian Latin Americans died. Latin Americans died because the CMP wanted total control of Latin America. And now this is finally coming to fruition. It looks like it is. South America and Latin America are going to be invaded. We have the further destabilization of Nicaragua. Rumors that we're going into Nicaragua as well. Rumors that we're going into Mexico, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. I know Venezuela's at the top of South America, but their goal, it appears, is to destabilize South America, destabilize Central America, so that this can end up happening. This is crazy. This is insanity, you guys. This is insanity. This has been in the works since the 80s. Since the 80s. And Alex Jones is like, oh, it's fine. It's perfectly okay. It's okay. I'm not for war. But I'm for this one.
To take out the communists, there'd be an uprising and they could have elections and it would be a good thing. So I'm not one to ever push offensive stuff, but they started it, so it's really defense. So I'll say it. I am for removing the Venezuelan dictatorship. But by the extension, the cartels back down and have basically slashed fentanyl production 90+%. I mean, they're killing their own people that do it. That's well known. And even in mainstream news. So it's kind of like Trump. I'm going to come get you in Mexico now because of what you did before. And the CIA was basically allowing all that, running a lot of it under Obama and then under Trump's nose. And then, with Biden, it got worse. So by that extension, I mean, for those who don't know, Trudeau allows the use of it. It's decriminalized. And they turned a blind eye to its production. Most of it comes out of Canada now. That's on record. So yeah, do we have a right to go blow up the cartels? Yeah. But
do we have a right just to invade sovereign countries to fight the cartels, right? Do we have the right to invade Mexico? We have a right to invade various countries in Latin America and Central and South America. We just have that right, chat. I'm not for a war, but they started it. Well, what? Okay, so by that logic, where'd they get the fentanyl, Jones? Where'd the cartels get the fentanyl from? Well, supposedly, allegedly, you say the Chinese, right? So do we? Does that mean we can invade China? Are you for a war in China, Jones? CMP bootlicker, this man is.
They rolled over, basically. Venezuela is the 800-pound gorilla. And so, whether you're for it or not, it's about to happen, in my view. And that's why you see Maduro trying to kiss ass and, oh, Trump, you're good. Hey, Biden told me to ship all the criminals up there. I've got the documents. You got them too. Yeah, we know that.
Ridiculous. And people still listen to this man. Or there's anybody out there, chat? Is anybody out there that I know my audience does not take Alex Jones seriously? I know you don't. I know you know that he's a snake in the grass, all right? He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's a New Ager. He's a theosophist. He's an actor, I know, all right? But it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So Rob Dew, formerly of InfoWars, says, just so everyone is aware, putting the National Guard on the streets for crime is not a bell that can be unrung. And while it may be beneficial in the short term if Demtards, or Democrats, ever get back in power, they will use the precedent to use the military for gun confiscation, and they will be armed. Huh. Remember the speech that Biden had given, and all the Republicans and all the conservatives were saying that Biden was a communist despot. A communist despot. Trump's gone further than Biden and his administration ever did to militarize the streets and to go against the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and posse comitatus. Did more than Biden ever did. And they warned us about Biden. And yeah, they were right. The militarization of DC under Biden, Biden's speeches, the increase of Palantir under the Biden administration. Yeah. And the left, majority of them, not all of them, there were left parapolitical researchers that would call out Biden, that would call out Palantir even before October 7th. But a lot of the mainstream ones, Jim Stewartson, Dave Troy, for examples, they didn't. And though on X you can see my history of me alerting to them to this issue, alerting Ann Nelson in her very special book on the CMP, right? CFR, Ann Nelson. Did the main ones, the main talking heads, did any of them? No, they just completely just cheered for Biden and his continuation of Operation Warp Speed and Palantir and finishing the border wall and stuff like that. Why? Because they're a bunch of shills. Because if they were really honest, they should have been calling Biden out for the problems of his administration. But they didn't. And so when Trump came into power, they're like, I don't understand it. I don't understand what happened. I don't understand what Palantir. Yeah. All this was continued under Biden's. Trump passed the ball to Biden. Biden laid up the ball, and Trump's dunking it in now. So, yeah, so all those people out there, the Dave Troys, the Jim Stewartsons, and Nelsons, all of y'all, bunch of shills. Bunch of shills that you are. But we're back to the right being a bunch of shills. And they're both always been shills. It's not a pivot of all of a sudden they're shilling. But the CMP talking heads, Jack Posobiec, I'll focus in on him. Say now this is all a good thing, right? When they were crying out about Biden in January 6th, crying about the militarization under Biden and the pandemic, rightfully so, are now hand-waving Trump. And Trump's making it worse. We'll see how bad. But the way things are going, ain't looking good, chat. Ain't looking good. And I think they're going to continue to accelerate. And that's been my thesis for the many years going on, researching this stuff. Good to see you, Aaron. Aaron said I called this back in 2020 before my original channel was deleted. He saw it coming a mile away. Yeah, a lot of us saw it coming a mile away during that time period, during the beginning of the pandemic. Aaron being one of them. Aaron called it. He called it. And now, here we are. Here we are. Retribution squads, Rex 2025, wars and rumors of wars. It's been happening. Take care, everyone.